So recently I came across a video from Alex Hormozy. It was a video of him documenting all the failures and the lessons he learned in 5 years at the time. So this video was 3 years old. It's been an hour long just talking about what he's learned. And it's inspired me to record this one. And the reason why is because since August, I've taken to Twitter to actually documenting all my lessons that I've learned. And recently, I've also just documented all my failures. And to give you some context, my name is Melvin Gonsalves. It's probably going to be the first video I post on my channel. And the reason why is I'm building a company called Requiem Digital. It's an AI growth company. I feel like this term AI is super buzzwordy now, and I kind of hate it. But I'm not an automation agency. The reason why I say I'm a growth agency is because I sell systems that help businesses grow. And I also understand sales and marketing on a fundamental level, which a lot of the people in this niche don't understand. So that's why I say I'm a growth agency. Putting that out of the way, just a little bit more about me. Um, I went to the University of Maryland. I was a computer science student at the University of Maryland, graduated in 2024. And while I was there, I started a company called Flawless Cleaning. It was operating in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and it operated in the DFW area and shortly in Austin. The entire time I was subcontracting jobs. I built it to a point and I scaled it to a point where it was making about 15K a month through ads. And after that, or actually during that process, I joined a startup company where I started getting into sales. I was actually the first, I want to say, sales manager, ironically, because I had no career in sales at the time, but it was my buddy's startup company. It's called Sociable AI. I think they're doing pretty well now if you want to check them out. And at that time, I learned my lessons in sales, and then I realized I have a knack for this. And after that, I went to a company called ZoomInfo, where I learned professionally how it's done at $1 billion scale, how appointments are set, how marketing is set, how inbound leads are handled, how outbound leads are handled, scripts, the work ethic, how management is handled with the large team of SDRs. I just learned a ton. And learning that while going through the failures and going through what I learned at the time with my cleaning company, and what I'm going through now with building this AI growth agency, I don't know. This is a little bit of a human side of me. But yeah, so, let's get started. I think the first thing that I've really learned is that success loves speed. The quicker you act, the faster you fail. And the faster you fail, the faster you learn. And the faster you learn, the faster you improve. And the faster you improve, the more you'll probably succeed. Most of my time actually working, this is just me as a South Asian. I was always scared of failure. I was always scared of failing at something. And I realized that's not the way to go. Because what really is failure at the end of the day, right? Like failure really is this concept of I didn't hit my goals, which why should you care about your goals? Instead, why don't you just care about the process it takes you to get to the goal you want? And so the first lesson I really learned was to really stop optimizing. I guess a better way is to over optimize. Because how can you optimize something you haven't even started trying? Taken for example, when I just started to learn cold emailing. And by the way, this week is because I'm a shitty chair. It's going to be one of my first investments. Um, but I find that a lot of people, me included, a lot of young guys, a lot of technical guys, a lot of smart guys, and I'm not trying to say I'm smart, but that's just what it is. They over optimize the process that before they even start it. They try becoming perfect at something before they even try launching anything. Taking, for example, my cold email campaigns. That's actually the first thing I want to mention. Like, I'd be like, oh, I got to launch on this day and this day. I got to send my emails from this time to this time. I would do all these different things to make sure I optimize before I send the campaign, which, hey, for me, why would I care? It's like, oh, and that would just delay me. Because when I'm sending out these cold email campaigns, it's like, oh, no, it's not Tuesday. I can't send it anymore. But why not? Why not just start sending emails? Oh, but it's Friday. I shouldn't send emails today. Okay, sure. Don't send it out today. Why don't you just schedule them? Why are you waiting to write the damn email next to like on Monday or on Sunday? Why are you doing that? You can schedule emails. Why are you over optimizing them? Learn from that. Learn the skill of copywriting. Start sending through failure you actually learn. And that's what goes into my next point that success actually loves speed. Because the quicker you act, the faster you fail. The faster you fail, the faster you learn. And the faster you learn, the faster you improve. And the faster you learn and improve, the better you're going to get and succeed. So success loves speed. The more iterations you do, the more you can innovate. Getting into what I'm saying is, ironically, with my cleaning company, it failed. Um, well, I don't want to say failed is a bad word, but more like I just stopped it. I didn't sell it. I just stopped doing business there. And so I guess shutting it down is technically a failure, is it not? And the reason why is because I refused to innovate and I kept listening to mentors that didn't get me to the place where I needed to go. In fact, like it's more like partners that were in the same industry. I guess not even partners, more like acquaintances, friends, connections in the same industry. I remember because again, my first business I started when I was 21 or 20. It was in 2022. I was 20 years old, but I was almost 21. And when I started it, I had someone teach me how to start the business and how to subcontract jobs, and I learned a lot. But the problem with what I learned was that I never tried to venture out my own way. I never tried to improve and learn on my own. I never tried to fail at specific things. I would just listen to somebody who I thought was doing great. And that was the biggest lesson I learned recently. Because intelligence, and people mistake intelligence. People think that intelligence is, oh, how much you actually know. But in reality, I just define that as knowledge. Intelligence is how can you react and improve from a specific stimuli. If you fail, how many failures does it take before you learn your lesson? And so for me, it took me a long time because the market changed. I would rely on Google local service ads to sell my business, sell my services, and the ads went like crazy. And right before that, though, about a year before they went crazy with pricing, I immediately was like, hey, maybe I should invest in a website and invest in SEO and invest in marketing. And by the way, this is before I even knew cold outbound. I didn't know anything about cold calling or cold email at the time. So I just knew like, hey, maybe I should invest in these marketing things, like things to just improve my online presence. And my mentor at the time, I don't even want to call him a mentor, more like my colleague or my acquaintance, um, who's coaching me kind of through this, was like, you don't need any of that. Just rely on ads. Just rely on Google ads. The local service ads will get you there. And I wish I didn't take that advice because by doing that, I'm doing the definition of insanity. I I was doing the same thing but expecting a different result. I was doing the same, and the logic behind it was, hey, yeah, I know the ads are expensive. I know things aren't working out right now, but the reason why is because you need more recurring people. If you just use the ads and get more recurring clients, it'll work out. Well, it's great, but local service ads is PPL. You're paying per lead. There's no mastery to headlines or anything could change with the ad. It's just luck. You could improve your profile by, reviews, but who cares? And so that was the first mistake I made. Well, not first, but, there was a combination of all that I was rambling about. Not taking risks while also at the same time taking the risk of a business. Not really listening to my gut. Not trying to learn. And by the way, that's what I realized recently. I've realized that, and I tried tricking myself for a long time. For me, I'm not like traditional entrepreneurs where I really crave, you know, flashy materialistic objects. I don't care about Lamborghinis. I don't care about Bugattis. I don't care about watches. I don't care about any of that. I care about freedom. I care about experience. I care about learning and stimulating myself and being immersed in specific subjects and just getting better at shit. I couldn't care about living in the nicest place or having the nicest watches or going to the nicest restaurants. I don't give a fuck about that or did. And I was a fool for trying to convince myself I was. I was a fool for trying to convince myself I craved those things. When in reality, all I craved was stimulation. I'm South Asian. My family's from Bangladesh. I'm a Christian Bengali. Ironically, that's my name is Melvin. But the reason why is because I grew up so sheltered. I wasn't able to do anything growing up. I was a really smart kid. I graduated high school with 4.6 GPA, got into comp sci, and also graduated comp sci at a pretty decent school at University of Maryland. But I did that while also running a business, having a campus job, which usually is kind of bullshit. I'm not gonna lie. And then at my peak, being also a part of a startup company and running sales for a startup company. So I was running sales for a startup company, having my own business where I was my own inbound sales guy, where I had to make sure I pick up all the phone calls. Was a computer science student, so sales, business, computer science student, and had my campus job. So that was four things. Yeah, it was a lot. And I think that's when my gas tank on productivity really came in. 12-hour days were nothing to me, like they were normal. And it's funny now that I struggle with it, but it's true. Anyway, getting back to it, I guess that's what it is. It's not that you don't have enough time, it's that you waste the time that you have. When you're doom scrolling, when you're on your phone. I remember back then my screen time was like 2 hours a day when I wasn't cold calling. It's not that you don't have enough time, it's that you waste the time that you have. And I live by that quote. Because ironically, the issues that we have are not unsolvable. It's just that you don't act on them. The quicker you act, the quicker you learn, the faster you fail, the faster you succeed. It's not that you don't have enough time, it's that you don't use the time to do what you need to do. And it's the human condition to crave comfort. So it's not unlike me to think that way. It's not unlike anybody to think that way. It makes total sense. Biologically, it makes sense, but why would you could listen to your biology? We don't do that anyway, right? There are plenty of things that we do that are not good for us. And I mean, this kind of goes into it. Like earlier, I was talking about how, and this is again a list of my failures and lessons where I can't teach people who will not recognize me. I cannot teach someone what I know who will not acknowledge that I know something better than they do. And again, I say this because, and I have no resentment towards this person. In fact, he really might well watch this video. But that's the exact advice I gave him. He took a year later from someone else who was in a way better position. And that taught me saying that people don't listen to you when you have nothing. And it makes so much sense. Because think about it, people don't listen to you when you have no results to show for it. They only listen to you if you have something to show, because at that point you have no credibility. So I don't fault him for it at all. It's just I wasn't credible because I didn't have the credibility. I wasn't successful yet. In fact, I'm not in the position that I was now. I'm in a way better position now. So that's just what I learned. And while doing that, I really learned our greatest freedom is not, what we do or not like, like, well, I guess a better way to put it is our greatest freedom has nothing to do with what we can say or etc. It's how we choose to react with the world than what actually happens to us. Given the external stimuli, how do you choose to react to the world? That's your greatest freedom. If you choose to live a life where, and I apologize for the squeaky chair. Again, I'm not from that. It's a shitty chair. It's not that you live a life and you're not able to control yourself, but it's the fact that you're able to control yourself, that you have consciousness, which is the reason why you're free. That is the greatest freedom that you have. And the moment you realize that you can just take a deep breath, and no matter what's going on, you can choose to react one way or another, that's the way you can go. And I think that's so interesting because that's the thing about psychology, isn't it? Like with alcoholics, and maybe this is a terrible way of tying it, but two people can have alcoholic parents. One person will say, I'm an alcoholic because my parents were alcoholics. And the other one can say, I'm not an alcoholic. I refuse to drink alcohol because my parents were alcoholics. Interesting. It's just interesting. And this ties into a point that I also learned where that life gets better the moment you realize you do have free will. That the choices you do make, the choices you do take, that's because you took those choices. When you refuse to listen to the program, where you refuse to just do the same things day in, day out, the same routine, where one day feels like the next, and all of a sudden it's 2 years by, 3 years by, and you're, for me, almost 24, and we refuse to live a life like that. When you want to be stimulated and continuously learn, when you do things that exhilarate you, that's when you realize you have freedom. Because you don't have to do the same thing every day. You don't have to eat the same thing. You don't have to talk about the same subjects. You don't have to go to the same places. You just choose to. And so when you realize that you have that choice, life immediately gets better. It reminds me of these memes I see online all the time. I see these memes of, it's like, oh yeah, bro realized he has free will, or he's maximizing his free will, and he's doing some crazy shit. But reality is like, why don't we live that way? Why don't we live in a way where we realize we have free will? And I think if once we do, we would be happier as people. This next one is actually really good. It's a really good lesson that I learned. The next lesson that I learned was you're only limited by what you choose to accept. The lies that people tell you, or the lies you tell yourself. If you tell yourself something, and this is the most important thing, because sometimes we'll tell ourselves things that aren't true. They're not true at all. I can only do this. Why? Well, because of why. And when you ask yourself why enough, you realize that's not why. Yes, don't get me wrong, there are things that be getting in the way, like the problems that you have. Like, say, for example, like people say, oh, I just want to make $100,000 a month. Or sorry, $100,000 a year. That's all I can do. Why not 100K? Why not? Oh, because, I haven't scaled yet. So, okay, what's stopping you from scaling? What's stopping you from working? Oh, but my relationships, well, why are those stopping you? Oh, because you don't care about it enough. It's a choice. You choose to live the way that you do. You choose to live in yourself, and you choose to realize that you're limiting yourself by the lies that people tell you, if not their truths, which could be your lie, and the lies you tell yourself. I didn't realize that until recently. I didn't realize that until I was in, and I don't want to show off, but I didn't realize this until I was in Italy in June. I was walking randomly in the streets of Rome. And when I was there, I was like, what is my life? Wow, it's very different from what I thought it was. I was a comp sci grad. I was in the computer science program at UMD, thinking I was going to be a software engineer. And here I am taking a business route, working a sales job at a big tech company. Very different from what I thought it was. And I hate my job, and I was like, yeah, I can't wait to quit. And I was planning on quitting at the time, and that's what I did. And it's obviously because I limited myself. I didn't do what was necessary. Of which I had these goals that I was like, oh, I'm gonna hit this goal and I'm gonna work towards it. But I never really followed the program. I never followed the process that got me there. I never followed the thing of like, oh yeah, like if I want to hit this goal, here's a process I need to do. And I started becoming more dependent on goals rather than the process. Because at the end of the day, goals don't matter. Goals are simply a direction. The thing that's gonna hit the goal is the way you get there, the process, the way you lay your bricks, the way you take your steps, the way you code, the way you learn, the way you write, the way you recover. So by refusing to do that, or not even refusing, by not acknowledging I wasn't doing the right process, I kept failing. I kept not hitting my goals. I kept being in the same spot, stuck on my office job. And maybe it takes a little bit of uncomfort. Maybe it takes a little bit of uncomfort to realize that you can live a life greater than what you have now. Hormozy talks about this all the time, or I heard him say this at least once, where he says the most successful people have three traits. They're very insecure, they believe that they're not enough, They believe they're better than everyone else, but more importantly, most importantly, that they're able to forego short-term gratification for the long term. They're able to have uncomfort, discomfort for whatever they want to have in the future. They're able to save and not spend as much now, not splurge now because they want to have some in the future. They don't have great success in the future. I never did that. I never followed the process like that. And I think I changed because I got lost in college. When I was in high school, I was very disciplined. I think that the way my parents raised me was perfect. Honestly, there's nothing better I can say. The only thing I can say to be better in was to not be as sheltered. But it's because I was sheltered that I crave experience, and that's the reason why I am now. That's why my motivations have nothing to do with the material world. They have everything to do with is just stimulation. And a reoccurring topic here is I'm gonna crave and crave and crave stimulation, experiences, and just learning. Like nothing is really gets to me aside from learning. A quick one for the next one is that now I live my life in absolutes. I try to minimize the things it takes my brain. I guess the best way to put it is I try to minimize the time it takes my brain to make decisions. When I don't solve something or when I don't decide on something, my mind will continuously just think about it. Oh, when will I do this? Or am I going to do this, etc. So I've just started avoiding words like might, would, could, should, maybe. Now it's just yes or no. Never, maybe, should, would, could, perhaps. I try to give myself a direction now, even if it's the wrong one, and just act. Because that's faster. Because even if I made the wrong decision, I can always try to make the right one next time. And I'll learn. Because I'll fail. And from failure, I learn. It's a recurring pattern. And this is funny because I realized this today, or not today, maybe a couple days ago. Generally, this was interesting. I'm not sure if anyone's ever said this, and this is going to suck to hear, but all your hardships, or at least I was thinking for myself, was all my hardships and thoughts are not unique to me. The thoughts that I think and the hardships that I experience are not unique to me at all. And that chances are there have been, if not at least one person who was successful, who have felt the exact same things and thought the exact same things that I have thought or felt. And so now I started trying to learn from their mistakes and their successes to improve the situation that I'm in. Take in point Marcus Aurelius. I was just reading Meditations, and the reason why is because I was just really thinking recently. I was really just off my phone, just in my thoughts. I was thinking, I was like, yeah, why do I struggle with waking up? There are days I just don't want to wake up early. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to act. And I remember, like, Marcus Aurelius, my boy Marcus talks about that in his book, in his journal. And this guy's literally a Roman emperor thousands of years ago, and he thinks the exact same things I'm thinking. So then chances are we're not as unique as we think. All the struggles you experience, all the fears, all the patterns, all your failures are not unique to you. And some other successful person has also experienced those same things. So the sooner you can learn from their mistakes, the sooner you don't have to make them yourself. And I think it's super important to not only learn from their mistakes, but also their successes. What were they great at? What was something that they were successful at? Because you should take that too. People only look at the mistakes. They don't look at people's successes. They don't realize, like, okay, they did do some things right. What's the good, bad, and ugly? Let me take all of it. Let me learn. Let me experience. And let me apply. Because that's something I would do too. one of my biggest mistakes was over optimization. It was overconsumption. I would constantly consume and consume information and never apply. I craved the stimulation. I had this fake dopamine effect of productivity, being like, "Oh yeah, I'm so productive. I watched 20 YouTube videos on business today." And I never did feel productive. I mean, I just felt. I guess that's a contradiction. That's a better way of putting it. I felt productive, but I knew I wasn't, and so I would mask my productivity. I would mask it with these videos saying I'm just learning. You can only learn for so long, brother. You have to act. You have to. No matter what it is, you have to act. You have to learn because again, the quicker you learn, sorry, the quicker you act, the faster you fail. The faster you fail, the faster you learn, the faster you succeed. Because what really is learning without experience? Even when I learn from others, I'm learning from their experience, not mine. But at the end of the day, it's still experience. So when you don't have an experience, how do you know? How do you know if it works for you? How do you know if what you're doing is correct? How do you know? You don't. You have to act. You have to learn. You have to fail to get where you need to go. And this gets into a bigger point of why aren't you acting? Why aren't you becoming the person you need to become? Why aren't you doing the things you want to do? It's because you crave comfort. It's the human condition. You not only crave comfort, you crave your flesh. You crave what your flesh craves. You're not able to separate yourself. And so you want to be this excellent guy. You want to be this guy that makes a ton of fucking money. You want to make sure that you're this guy that's, all the girls like him. You got all the money. You're so athletic, so jacked. But you can't hold yourself to the standard that you need to become that person. Because at the end of the day, you are the standard that you hold yourself to. And without the standard of holding yourself to a specific thing, who really are you? You're just a lazy bum laying in bed jerking a meat. That's it. Maybe it's a little vulgar, this video, but that's just something that I thought about recently. I don't know. And I will now just move with intention. Everything should be planned, even my spontaneity. Everything should be planned, even my spontaneity. What does that mean? So again, I was cracked in high school. Well, pause. Yeah, but yeah, I was this guy where I had a lot more in check. I'm glad I learned what I did in college though. But I had a physical plan. Every single day, I would plan out every 15 minutes of my day. That's I'm going to do this from this time to this time. I'm going to do this from this time to this time. I'm going to do this. I'm going to work out. I'm going to read. I'm going to code. I'm going to do math. I'm going to do my projects. I'm going to travel. I even planned out when my bus would go. So I live in the DMV area. I live in Maryland, and the buses come, I think, at the time, like every 25 or 30 minutes. I would even plan how long my journey would be with the bus. Because again, I had an internship my senior year. I was with some scientists, and you know, I had to make sure everything was planned. I had a level of discipline that I lost. And so right now, with the information I gained while in college, I'm also trying to implement that discipline. I fell for the trap of, oh yeah, these routines are only necessary for step A, when in reality, step A was necessary to get to step B. And sometimes those steps you take in step A are not supposed to be removed for step B, and others are. Other limiting beliefs. This routine wasn't one of them. I'm someone who needs a routine. But I'm also someone, again, who craves stimulation. So what I do is I block out a time where nothing is timed. Nothing is going to happen. Like, I will leave me to do spontaneous things. Yeah, let's just live. Life is meant for experiencing. Why not? Um, and it's something I didn't actually touch on, by the way, that I wanted to touch on. And I see in my notes right now, I should have touched on it. Is this concept of not starting sooner and also not starting now. Those are two mistakes I made because there are so many things that I wish I did when I was younger. I wish I trained a specific way. I wish I did specific sports. I wish I did specific things. Like I wish I started selling and joining and doing sales from when I was 17. I wish I got into content. I wish I got into business when I was younger. And the second biggest mistake was I didn't start now because the best time was yesterday. The best time was a year ago. The second best time is now, and the worst time is tomorrow. And I just kept delaying for tomorrow. What's the point of doing it now if I can do it back then? It was self-sabotage. It was so stupid. Hey, but at least I learned. At least I learned. But yeah, so this is going to be a first video. That was a lot. Um, this is going to be a first video of probably many of where I document my lessons. If you want to go and see me document this live, you can always follow me on Twitter at REQ Melvin, Rec Melvin. The company's name is Requiem Digital, and I have nothing to show you. I sell you. I'm here to just document my process and show you everything that I learned. And if you do want to work with me, schedule with me, and I can go from there. Anyway, guys, talk to you later.